I would like to give thanks to the patrons Lalo and Kalima. Shashamya, my fellow gamer words, hope you're all doing well, and today we are going to be talking about Illuminaughtii once again because it seems a lot has happened since the last time I made a video on her, so much so that I think she needs to add more than 2 L's to her name considering the amount she's taking right now. Now, I'm not surprised that she turned out to be even worse than I thought after making my 2 other videos, which by the way, you should go check them out if you haven't, if you want more information on Illuminaughtii and why she is just an all-around terrible person. But I will say, I did not expect her to be this bad to the point of where she is losing, oh dear, 100k subscribers as of recording this video. In this video, I'm going to be going over all the drama that has been going on with Illuminaughtii and giving my thoughts on everything, because boy do I have a lot to say. Anyways, because I have a lot to talk about, grab yourself some Blair-flavored chips, something to drink, and let's just jump straight into this.
I tried to pick the poop up with my hands.
To begin with, let's talk about what kicked off this flood of drama, that being her accusation of Legal Eagle copying her. Now, it's safe to say that the last person you want to pick a fight with is a lawyer, because unlike Illuminaughtii, they argue for a living. However, it appears Illuminaughtii probably doesn't even know what a lawyer is, because she decided to start beef with Legal Eagle, a lawyer YouTuber, publicly on Twitter, by accusing him and his editing team of copying her. And do you want to know what she said was the reason for why she's accusing him of this? Well, get ready, because what she said was so stupid, it somehow makes cursed Balkan YouTube comments look more intelligent. According to Blair, Legal Eagle and his editing team copied her by using editing techniques that she also uses, with her even providing pictures of the editing effects she is talking about, one of them being a paper tear effect and a highlighting effect. In addition to that, an editor from Legal Eagle asked how to do an editing technique, and apparently Blair thinks this is them trying to get more info on how to do it so they can copy the style. And then she finishes off her thread on Legal Eagle by being a cunt. Language. And then she finishes off her thread by saying, "In TBH, I wouldn't have believed any of this was trying to replicate my videos if not for the email and Discord stuff that was done preemptive to their video coming out. Like, talk about, can I copy your homework? Yeah, but just make it a little different. SMH.
Shut up, bitch!"
First of all, let me just say that using an editing technique that other people use is not stealing. The editing techniques she accused him of stealing are publicly available for anyone to use. In fact, many content creators use these effects. Illuminaughtii doesn't own these effects at all. She is saying that they stole something from her that she doesn't even own. Like, does she not know what stealing is? Because I knew what that was when I was a freaking toddler, and somehow a 30-year-old woman doesn't know what stealing is. Also, Blair, that email in the Discord messages that editor sent you, asking how to do a certain editing effect, is something content creators do all the time.
Are you fucking retarded?
Content creators asking how to do certain editing effects is nothing new and a completely normal thing to do, but considering all the stuff you've done to content creators in the past, I'm not surprised you don't know what a normal content creator does with another content creator. Also, the amount of snarkiness in that ending tweet just shows how intelligent she thought that tweet was. Honestly, you think a YouTube channel that does research for their videos would know how to research what they're accusing someone of before they actually accuse someone? Not only does this thread show how stupid Blair is, but it also shows that she doesn't even know how to research anything whatsoever. Now, I know that some of you Illuminaughtii glue sniffers are going to be crying in my comments saying, "Oh, but what about her videos she does research for those, what about those?" First of all, she doesn't research her videos. She actually has a team of people that do that for her. In fact, she also has a team of people that edit her videos for her, and a team that writes for her. All Illuminaughtii really is just a glorified voice actor. That's all she does for her videos. Second, the editing technique she mentioned in this tweet wasn't the one the guy was asking for on Discord and in the emails. If you take a look at the email, you can see that the edit he was asking how to do was the one she did for the intro of her NFL video. And let me show you what that edit was.
NFL has grown in its over 100-year existence. It has sparked countless moments of joy, sorrow, and frustration for its fans. But while football is a beloved sport in the United States, the NFL has caused and faced quite a few scandals in its time. The link between football and CTE, a traumatic brain disease, has been well documented and has led many people to question the NFL's protection of its players' health and the safety of football in general. The NFL has also been accused multiple times of having racist protocols and practices and allowing for a culture of violence against women among their players. So what is the real story of America's favorite game?
As you can see, no page tearing or highlighting here. She didn't even call out the right edit he was asking about. This just shows how bad her ability to research is. I wonder what kind of paint Blair was drinking to think that this thread was a good idea. Now, Legal Eagle ended up responding to Blair by saying that they didn't try to copy her, that many other people, including them, have used those edits far before Blair has, and that what his editor did was a common thing many YouTubers do. Now, because everybody was dunking on Blair for this stupid thread, she decided to delete this tweet without publicly apologizing. However, she did apologize privately and publicly later on, which we will talk about in a bit. However, here's the thing. If you are gonna start beef publicly when you are in the wrong, then you need to apologize publicly, because she fed a bunch of people misinformation in the form of false accusations she made about Legal Eagle and his editing team. And she needs to clarify to people that her tweet was wrong in the form of a public apology immediately after she realizes what she said was wrong. The fact that Blair did not apologize publicly immediately after she realized she was in the wrong just shows that she was probably hoping that people would just forget about this whole situation and that she doesn't care about spreading misinformation to her audience. Now, I know some of you are going to say that, oh, but she deleted the tweet, so that shows she does care about her audience not being fed misinformation because the claims she made are now gone. Here's the thing, people still have screenshots of those tweets, and they are also archived. Just because she deleted the tweets does not mean the misinformation she spread is not out there anymore. In order to make sure people don't buy into the misinformation she accidentally spread, she needs to apologize immediately so that way people know she was wrong. The fact that she didn't do that just shows that Blair doesn't care if people are fed misinformation, and that she was probably hoping people would just forget about it. But judging by her loss in subscribers, they didn't. Now, while all this was going on, there was another thing that did come out during this whole situation, that being H. Bomber Guy accusing Illuminati of copying a documentary word for word.
Freudenberg.
Professor Freudenberg has long been controversial.
A man named Hugh Freudenberg, a former immunologist who has been long controversial.
In 1989, he was caught up in a bizarre lawsuit involving the Food and Drug Administration, which told him he had to stop injecting his autistic child patients with blood products.
In 1989, he was caught up in a bizarre lawsuit with the Food and Drug Administration, which told him he had to stop injecting his autistic patients with blood products.
Then in 1995, he was suspended from practicing medicine and made to pay a $10,000 fine for his misuse and misprescribing of controlled drugs.
Then in 1995, he was suspended from practicing medicine and made to pay a $10,000 fine for his misuse of prescribing controlled drugs.
However, Blair did have a good explanation as to why this occurred in her god-awful apology video.
Really? You do?
That I can actually see happening, which we'll go into that later. All in all, when it comes to this whole Legal Eagle Illuminati situation, Illuminati was incredibly dumb for doing this.
They have just shit a baby arm out.
While everyone was calling out Blair for this whole Legal Eagle situation, a bunch of former creators she used to work with decided to reveal some of their experiences with her, and boy are they something to say the least. With these creators being Ozmedia, Wonder, One Topic, and The Click. Now, these creators used to work with Blair on a channel by the name of Sad Milk. If you guys remember from the last Illuminati video I made, I briefly brought up Sad Milk, which was just a collaboration channel that was ran by Illuminati and a bunch of other creators. I was originally going to talk about it more in my previous video, but at the time I really couldn't find much wrong with it. However, now I am able to talk about it because a lot of new information has come out about how Blair treated some of the members of Sad Milk. And let's just say the MLMs Blair covered probably had a better work environment than Sad Milk did. To cover this, I'm going to be summarizing each thread made by the Sad Milk members, and we're going to start off with the Clicks. He starts off his thread by saying that he is not affiliated with Illuminati and hasn't been for 2 years due to her behavior that is similar to behavior seen in recent events. He then goes on to talk about how she is lashing out at friends and fans, which in regards to that fans comment, I believe he is talking about how she was mean to a fan for no reason on her community tab, which I talked about in my previous video about Illuminati. He then goes on to talk about how she was paranoid.
He's in the wall.
He's in the goddamn wall!
And had skill issues with anger management, and because of how she was acting, the whole group left her. He then goes on to talk about how the last meeting he had with her, where in this meeting she spent a long time screaming at him for a bunch of random things like calling him a bad friend, which is ironic considering she deleted Tommy C's videos without his permission, lazy, and a bunch of stuff that didn't even have to do with him. He then goes on to quote something that she said to him, that being, "There is no way you can have the resume you claim and be this fucking stupid," which is ironic ironic coming from Blair, considering, you know, she was dumb enough to pick a fight with a lawyer. And then he goes on to say that no one raised their voice back at her. After that, he and half the group went to go get milk, and due to this, she started to spread lies and half-truths about him and other former members of Sad Milk on the Reddit page and with vague posts on Twitter. Now, one thing that a lot of people criticized the people who came out against Blair for was not showing any evidence to their claims at the time, which I get. If you're going to make a thread like this, you need evidence. However, thankfully, the clique provides evidence in the video he makes later on. Next, he talks about how she would turn friends against you or team up with people she knew that didn't like you, which we have seen this from Blair before, when she messaged Tipster that she was able to get Nicholas DiOrio's video taken down at a time when Tipster and Nicholas DiOrio were not on good terms. Then he goes on to talk about how when people started to question that maybe she was the reason everyone left, there was a convenient digging up of 11 to 14-year-old videos of him, which he then goes into detail about those 11 to 14-year-old videos by saying that they were stuff he made when he started his channel in 2009 when he was a teenager that contained jokes that aged like milk. He then says that he has publicly owned up to his mistakes and apologized, and that he does his best to be transparent and honest about his past. Moving on, he then says that she would still harp on it and ignore the fact that he already addressed it. She would also try to direct as much attention as possible to his mistakes, which is ironic considering the fact that Blair doesn't like it when people are directed to her mistakes, and she publicly stated that it was a bad apology.
Ironic.
With vague posting about it in the comments on the collaboration channel. Along with that, he says it was probably an attempt to make people think that he had been kicked out for poor behavior rather than because of her behavior, and how she liked to pull what he describes as very petty acts of revenge, which again, we already saw that when she literally contacted an artist to get someone's video terminated, all because she didn't like what the video had to say about her. One example of this petty act of revenge he talks about is how some people would leave comments on Sad Milk saying good that click left, which would get ratioed hard, and what Blair would do was she would go in manually and delete comments that are ratioing the hate comments but leave the original hate comments. He then goes on to talk about how she tried to gain control of his Discord server when it surpassed hers in size, and here I thought only insecure men cared about size, by throwing around accusations at staff and trying to get rid of his team and replace it with hers, with her also giving him an ultimatum to fire his entire team or be publicly fired from Sad Milk. He then said that he was intimidated by her because she would claim that she had connections and clout, reputation, and powerful friends, and because of this, everyone stayed silent, with people constantly looking over their shoulders. He then says that they didn't mention the whole thing, not even to their Discords, because she had spies within their Discords, and they were just hoping that they wouldn't have their reputation completely destroyed by her for simply walking away. Finally, he ends off the thread by saying that it was just sad to see that she hasn't changed. The next thread we're going to be looking at is Hi I'm Wonder's thread, in which he starts off his thread by saying that he was threatened with a breach for speaking out, and that he can confirm the behavior Blair exhibits is accurate to what the clique said. He goes on to state that he is aware of all the bridges he burned. He then talks about what happened to him after Sad Milk split. He talks about how he was in a constant negative echo chamber that he took part in. He says that he was an editor for Sad Milk, and that Blair made no effort to take direction, and that she would make everything about herself. Along with that, he said Sad Milk is the closest thing he had to family. He then goes on to talk about what it was like by saying that he would have to spend a lot of time making drafts, edit tutorials for new hires, staying up trying to get some editing done, if editors were shorthanded, with him even missing Christmas with his dad and brother because he was fixing mistakes from an editor that she hired. He also says that he wouldn't get paid when he was supposed to, along with other people, because Blair would spend money on clothes and a bunch of other stuff she doesn't need. He then talks about how there was a new villain of the week because Blair would change her mind about how she felt about that person. Along with that, he said it was a lie that Sad Milk split due to creative differences, and that the call the clique mentioned where she screamed, cursed, and had a meltdown towards the clique and another person did happen. He also says that Blair wanted creative lead and that the channel went from fun content to doing unenthusiastic view content. Along with that, Blair took control and didn't listen to how videos should be made, and because of that, they ended up being terrible, which I can see that considering the fact she needs a team of people to make videos for her. In fact, these videos were so bad that Wonder and his friends would laugh at Sad Milk content because of how awful it became, which was one of the reasons why he stopped editing, because his good content got roped into Sad Milk's bad content he edited. Moving on, he talks about how Blair didn't care and that anyone who tried to take reins was a threat, and that after clicking OT and Salty left, he did almost all the heavy lifting for Sad Milk. He says that he tried to make things better by making schedules, and that he actually prevented Blair from deleting the channel in Discord during one of her mental breakdowns by convincing her not to. He goes on to talk about how obsessed Blair was with Click and One Topic, how she would insult them a lot behind the scenes, and that she would make fake accounts to stalk Click, One Topic, and a large portion of the commentary community.
Really? I do.
Which makes me wonder how many of my dislikes on both of my Illuminati videos are from actual people and not fake accounts made by Blair. In addition to that, he also said that he has seen her get a lawyer to see if they could shut down anyone who says anything against her, and that they would ruin her day by saying, yeah, we can't really do anything. He then says that no work would get done and that it still wouldn't get done even though he tried to motivate people, but nobody cared. He thought Blair was a friend that needed help up until he became the villain, with him getting badly treated by others. He then talks about how he lived with Blair for a while, in which he describes it as a nightmare due to feeling like he was trapped in her home always, that she makes everyone her enemy, and that she called him checking in to see if she was okay, an invasion of her privacy. He then shows a picture of her home and says that she lives like an actual monster because her home is a mess. Let me just say that I am not surprised Blair lives like this, considering she admitted to in her poop story video that after she took a massive shit that wouldn't flush, she put her hand in the toilet, picked up some of the shit, threw it in the garbage, and let the shit sit in the toilet and trash for a day. Now, I would play this video, but Blair has been known to issue takedowns if people re-upload the video, and I don't want to deal with that. So I'm going to leave a Google Drive in the description with the video in it, so you guys can check it out. Anyways, back to the threads. She would constantly subtweet about him and ignore him, and if he said anything back, her Discord manager would remind him of the contract he signed. After that, he says his therapist, the one that she claims he stole because she recommended the therapist, even though he was just taking up her recommendation, which this just proves even more that she doesn't even know what stealing is. Anyways, the therapist suggested that he leave the home, which he did. He then goes on to talk about what happened after he left the home, with him saying that he had everything in real life and online taken from him, with Illuminati even throwing away his YouTube play button.
Okay, fine, I'm cool, I'm fine.
He then says he has spent the last 2 years of his life rebuilding as a result of what Blair did to him. Finally, he talks about how he isn't scared of Blair anymore, and that's pretty much it when it comes to Wonder's thread. Next, we're going to be taking a look at Oz Media's thread. He starts off his thread by saying that it's time that he spoke up about Sad Milk in 2020 and 2021, and that he is very scared to do this. He says that the threads posted by Wonder and Click were true. After that, he talks about how Sad Milk was a total mess of a project, also saying that Blair has hurt him and that he is gonna speak out so he can finally be heard. He says that most of Sad Milk was controlled by Illuminati, with Blair feeling the need to be in a managerial position to contribute because of her lack of personality. Along with that, Blair would get defensive when anyone would attempt to assist, despite her claiming that no one wanted to help her, which was one of the factors she claimed that ended Sad Milk. He confirms that Blair is indeed aggressive, which again, not surprised considering what she did to that one fan who made a suggestion, and that she will never publicly apologize if proven wrong. I would say she only publicly apologizes if, she's losing a shit ton of subscribers. He then said that she will probably hide behind a private apology, and that she doesn't apologize publicly because admitting to error would make her look stupid and weak. I highly disagree. Admitting to error shows that you know what you did was wrong. More people are going to have respect for someone that admits they are wrong than they do for someone that tries to hide their wrongdoings. Admitting to error shows that you're smart, since it shows you're willing to learn from your mistakes and that you know what your mistakes are. and that you are strong because it takes a lot of guts for someone to admit when they're wrong. It just goes to show that Illuminaughtii is a stupid little coward. He then goes on to talk about how she ignores criticism by blocking people on Twitter, silencing them through YouTube channel bans, and putting her account on the download to prevent interaction. In fact, as of writing this video, she hasn't tweeted in a while, so he's right on that. Along with that, he would say that she would blacklist former creators of Sad Milk from being mentioned, but then she would manually approve hate comments towards former creators, which in his opinion were ones that praised her or the remaining members, including him, with him saying that this is her MO. He then talks about how Sad Milk was very much like this. The first sign of dissonance was to have him confront OT and the clique with a list of talking points she made in an attempt to show them how they were wrong, which he accepted. After that, he says that he was a frontrunner for Blair and that anything Blair needed to say went through him first, probably because she would do something stupid like saying that they're stealing the air because they are also breathing it while in a Discord call. He would also act as a filter to keep her out of drama or keep her from saying things that would cause a problem, although he did end up stop doing this. He then goes on to say that he could have been manipulated, but he still knows what he was doing was wrong and how he felt for doing this. Next, he says he moved to Colorado, got a house, and even lived with her for a time. He would hear these theories and villainous explanations directed at anyone who wronged her. Wonder what she said about me and Tipster. We both still live in her head rent-free, most likely. He goes on to talk about how he believed it was his responsibility to protect his friend from something that in his head was hurting her, something that he felt was eating at her and making her daily life worse. Boy, with the amount of tears Blair was shedding, it sounds like it's enough to crash the salt market. Anyways, he then says that with hindsight, all this could have been solved with conversations, but she was unwilling to have them. She would instead make up conspiracies. Ironic that someone who called out the crazy letter that comes after P people makes up conspiracies about people when she is mad. By the sounds of it, she sounds like she belongs with them, if only she were not a leftist. He then says that him and some other people were forced by Blair to choose between her or Click and OT, in which he would always choose Blair because he lived with her. He then says that once he chose her, he felt like he was making the right decision because Blair and her mods would praise him, basically acting as a bunch of yes men. And in hindsight, he ended up learning that he was wrong making this choice. He goes on to talk about how he lost a lot of friends, he isolated himself, and B at her side despite him feeling his connections to the world being severed. He says that he has learned since then how much he has been used. He also wants Blair to know that she hurt him and that her team is probably reading the thread. Finally, he ends off the thread by saying that he wants Blair to apologize. Finally, the last thread we're going to be looking at is One Topic's thread. He starts off the thread by saying that his memory on Sad Milk is fuzzy, but he remembers it starting out fun, but then ended up turning into a source of stress. He talks about how they met. Okay, so a couple of the tweets don't really have anything to do with the experiences when it comes to Sad Milk. They're just talking about what it was like before Sad Milk, so because of that, I'm just going to skip summarizing these ones, but I will show the tweets on the screen real quick, just in case you guys are interested. He talks about the night when Sad Milk as an idea came about, with him going on to say that what really solidified the commitment for Sad Milk was when the Click's channel got deleted and the people who made Sad Milk tweeted to get his channel back. During the weeks it took for YouTube to actually review his channel deletion, he tried cheering the Click up by taking him on to things like podcasts and stuff like that. According to him, they felt more close than ever after the Click's channel was reinstated. At this point, he felt very confident that Sad Milk was going to succeed, to the point where he even quit his job. Along with that, he talks about how he was really grinding on the YouTube career, and that he felt really connected to everybody in the group. However, things started to change when they started recording more frequently because some people liked it while others didn't, but they all still wanted to make it work. He says he doesn't remember what the tipping point was, but it was probably a combination of people not having enough time zones, and conflicting schedules, but they started to rub each other the wrong way. He would try to mediate this because he and others feared the arguments were getting taken too far, and he also felt that if they could get past these things, it could work, but that never came. The group ended up fracturing, and they felt that if they stepped out of line, they would face retaliation. However, they tried to make the best of it, but things kept piling up. Along with that, they also felt drained due to all the work, and because of the stress, all of this was causing him and some other people to leave the project. He didn't learn about the rumors and stories being spread about him and the other people who left the project until he left the group, and that it really hurt to learn about these rumors that were started by a friend in order to justify that a project they walked away from was better off without him. He says that he stayed silent on the whole thing publicly and did damage control privately while false rumors were spreading about them. False rumors would come out every now and then, and they would have to do damage control over again. And he finishes off this thread by saying that that was all he needed to say. Now here's one funny thing I noticed ever since these threads were released. Why hasn't one person come forward to defend Blair from Sad Milk? You know, how come there isn't at least one person that hasn't come forward trying to denounce these threads? You think that if Blair were innocent, there would be at least one person, like an editor or someone who did something else for their channel, and yet there is absolutely no one.
Slides back down, so now there's poos.
Now, because of all the backlash Blair was getting, she obviously needed to make an apology video because by the looks of it, deleting her tweets, not apologizing publicly to Legal Eagle, responding to crazies on Reddit, and saying that it's just men dogpiling on her on Discord wasn't enough to quell the backlash. So she ended up making an apology video. Well, apology video isn't exactly the right word to call it. Throughout this video, she's just more throwing people under the bus than actually apologizing to people, and because of that, not too many people, myself included, seem to like this video. Yeah, to say the least, this video wasn't received well, although I will say, somehow Blair has done the impossible. She managed to make a shitty apology video that doesn't start off with sighing. Now, because I don't want to see one of iilluminautie's bot accounts commenting saying that I'm being disingenuous, we're gonna be observing this dumpster fire.
Hey everyone.
Shut up, bitch!
Well, there's no really fun or interesting way to start this conversation, so you guys know what you're here for, and I'm just gonna jump into it the way I know how to. So I'm sure, as all of you know, many things have been said about me in the past week and a half-ish, and I'm someone who often doesn't speak my side of things, and that's something that's also been noted.
Yeah, mainly because a lot of the things you have done prior to this were done when you were a smaller creator and could get away with not apologizing for the shitty things you did, because less people would know about the things you did due to your lack of influence at the time, such as how she never apologized to Tommy for deleting his videos.
Just for kind of full transparency in this, I'm going to be working from some of my notes that I've written to accomplish two main things. The first is mainly to keep me on track with the subject matter and off of tangents. I know I like to go off on tangents and talk about various topics all the time, but this is not that time. The second reason is really just to keep my emotions in check. A lot of the things that I'm going to talk about in the most of this video, to be totally honest with you, are things kind of from the past. They involve old friends, people that I used to consider close friends and I used to trust and really enjoy spending time with, and kind of reopening a lot of these wounds is really painful. It's really uncomfortable, and it's not something I ever thought I would ever have to speak about, especially not in this kind of way. After a few days of self-reflection and really thinking about what I want to say and how I want to talk about these things, I think now is the right time.
First of all, when it comes to what you did to Legal Eagle, publicly apologizing days after was definitely not the right time to apologize. You needed to apologize as soon as you realized you were in the wrong. I'm honestly just thinking you did this only because you were losing subscribers by the shit ton. Also, considering the amount of influence you have on a lot of people, if you make an accusation that was wrong the way you did publicly, you need to apologize publicly in order to let people know that you were wrong, so that way they aren't believing in false accusations made by you. However, when it comes to the stuff that the former Sad Milk member said about Blair, yeah, she needs to take time when it comes to responding to those things said about her, considering the amount of things that were said about her.
To be perfectly honest, I'm feeling pretty vulnerable to have this conversation with so many people and so publicly, especially since some of the things that I'm going to talk about today are really personal and things in my private life that should have never become content fodder. So let me try something new today.
I don't get why she's acting like she hasn't responded to drama before this. She literally responded to backlash she was getting when she was mean to a fan by doubling down on her shitty take in one of the most rude ways possible on Instagram.
And I'm going to address these issues.
Now, I was going to give her some credit for apologizing to Legal Eagle in the beginning of the video, but considering she should have apologized publicly immediately after she realized she was in the wrong, I'm not going to give her credit at all.
Now, before we get into debunking many false statements that have been made about me...
Really? I do.
Bruh, false statements. I can already see her getting out her victim card. Why would you mention what the former Sad Milk members said about you are false statements in the Legal Eagle section of your video? You could have just waited to say that they were false statements in the sections where you responded to what former members of Sad Milk said about you, because to me, you saying that seems like you are more concerned with denouncing what the former members of Sad Milk said about you than actually apologizing to Legal Eagle.
I want to start with an apology. I have apologized privately to Legal Eagle the day after this incident occurred.
Well then why didn't you apologize publicly the day after it happened too? It's not that difficult, Blair. Heck, I would argue that apologizing privately is more difficult than apologizing publicly.
Occurred, though I have not been publicizing that until right now.
What are you talking about? You said you privately apologized on Reddit on April 22nd. You can't really say that you haven't been publicizing that prior to this video.
Maybe this is something I should have said sooner, but I needed the time to think through the events that have preceded.
Again, it's not that difficult to make a public apology, especially after you make one privately. Also, think through the events that have preceded. Blair, the members of Sad Milk speaking out against you is a separate can of worms entirely that should not delay you from publicly apologizing to Legal Eagle. It does not excuse you for waiting to make a public apology.
That have preceded. And for those unaware, a short story. My editors came to me about how parts of a Legal Eagle video looked similar to our videos. And then there were messages and an email from one of Legal Eagle's editors asking for more information about how we do certain effects.
I know I said this before, but this is a common thing YouTubers do all the time. There is nothing wrong with asking how to do a certain editing effect.
I looked at the compared images that were brought to me and I said, wow, that does look pretty similar, and I impulsively posted about it on Twitter. Truthfully, I should have looked into this more instead of just putting the information out there the second I had a gut reaction about it. I should have asked him what the emails were about, but I didn't, and I made a mistake, and plain and simple, I was wrong. So to Legal Eagle and team, I just want to reiterate that I messed up, and I'm sorry for any stress this may have caused you and of course to your team.
Well guys, she finally did it. She admitted she was wrong and apologized publicly after she lost subs and everyone on the internet took a shit on her. Nothing weird about her releasing a public apology now, despite it being incredibly simple to do that, especially after you apologize privately. Nah, but in all seriousness, the fact she waited this long to make a public apology makes me believe that she was hoping that this would all die down quickly and be forgotten. Oh, but she needed time to make the apology video. She didn't have to make an apology video. She should have just tweeted publicly an apology and posted on her community tab. That would have been quicker than making an apology video.
I know I apologized privately and removed the tweets with that apology, and I'm now publicly sharing that information with all of you. And I want to extend that apology to my audience and to listeners who are disappointed in me for this, because I'm also disappointed in myself.
That is fucking bullshit. You have done far worse things to other creators, and you have never once stated that you were ever disappointed in yourself or sorry for what you did to them. I mean, look at what she did to Tommy C. She never apologized once to him or indicated that she was disappointed in herself for something that I think is far worse than this Legal Eagle stuff.
It was a quick-drawn decision, and it wasn't thought out. I promise to do better.
I doubt you will. How long do you think she will last? Let me know in the comments. Anyways, let's continue.
Now, as we continue in this video, I do want to give you a heads up that there will be trigger warnings for various sections as needed. I also want to go ahead and let you know that I will be providing a public Google Drive containing any and all relevant information that I will address in this video, similar to how I provide a source document for every episode of mine.
Alright, so for this section, I'm gonna skip it because there is really nothing wrong with what she said in this section responding to H-Bomber Guy. She basically said she cited a source wrong that she was quoting, and I'm just gonna say that I can see that happening because I have labeled sources incorrectly before when quoting in papers for school. So because of that, I'm not gonna shit on her for it, and I'm gonna be charitable. Her response to H-Bomber Guy was reasonable and all around fine. Now we're at the Sad Milk stuff, and her response to this was bad to say the least.
Before I address any one person individually, I want to kind of cover everything in a general and broader scope regarding Sad Milk. Sad Milk was a collaboration channel started by 6 friends in 2020. It was kind of essentially group Reddit readings and just looking at cringe things online and reacting to it. It was no big deal on the surface. This channel and this project was just meant to be something goofy, easy, and kind of cringy, but a shared channel that we could all get a kick out of. It was just supposed to be a bunch of friends hanging out, reacting to funny images, and just having a good time together. I mean, the channel name was literally called Sad Milk, so it wasn't really something that anyone was taking too seriously. Discussing Sad Milk now in current day is always a little bit bittersweet for me. It was a fun project among friends that turned sour. The issues I'm about to address cost me some of my closest friends at that time. When the Sad Milk channel was formed, I initially took the lead and I made the channel, I made the Discord, I got my mods from my server to help run the new Discord, I hired and managed video editors to help us produce more content. I was the one who was sourcing the topics and files for each video, and I was the one who had set the schedules for recording too. The reality of the situation was this: with creators in different time zones, it was logistically pretty hard to get everyone together at one place in one time. We tried to do it organically multiple times, but unfortunately someone would always end up missing from the recordings. There's a lot of work behind the scenes that goes into a YouTube channel, and I bore the brunt of it for this project. And it wasn't something that I was doing to have total control, as some members have suggested. I managed the schedules and the editors because it was just something that needed to be done. People weren't stepping up to the plate, and I did, and I ultimately bit off more than I could chew. It was a lot of work, if we're being honest, and I was beginning to burn out pretty quickly. Had I known how I would have been treated through this channel and afterwards, I never would have joined this project.
Oh, boo-hoo! Let me play a sad song for you on the world's smallest violin.
Here we go with Blair playing the victim card, because Blair always has to identify as the victim. Now before we go even further into this video, keep in mind that Blair is an unreliable narrator, considering that she has a history of lying, spreading rumors about people that are not true, and being deceitful in the past. Now I know some of you are going to talk about the receipts, and you'd probably think that is enough to prove her claim. Well, her evidence is not good evidence, to say the least, but we will get into why that is later.
Essentially, everyone in the group had two main responsibilities for Sad Milk. The first was that you had to show up to the scheduled recording, and the second was you had to pay your portion of the editor's fees as they arise. After the editors were paid, any earnings that were left in the channel were split into 6 equal pieces for each person. Since this was a project among friends, we all initially agreed to just split the earnings 6 ways, even though I was taking on some extra responsibilities. When it was time to pay the editors, I wasn't answered or told that they would just get it to me later. I had to do this at various points with a vast majority of the members of the group. They would eventually get around to reimbursing me only after I expressed in group meetings how I was upset that I have to do everything, and I also got stuck footing the bill too. What quickly transpired was that members either couldn't or wouldn't reimburse me for the editors. For clarity's sake, I do want to disclose that we as a group later revised our agreement after paying all editors and creative freelancers that 5% of remaining earnings would go directly to me for the administrative work that I was doing. After that, the remaining earnings would then be split amongst the group evenly. Ultimately, the channel made very little, and it actually cost a lot more than we earned a majority of the time. Something the Click brought up in his Twitter thread was that I was angry and yelled in a meeting. But what he didn't share was the context of that meeting.
Yeah, because the context doesn't matter. No matter what the context is, that still doesn't give you the right to scream at someone in a meeting.
As I've previously stated, the scheduling and money issues had been an ongoing problem. In the meeting that he vaguely references on Twitter, this is what actually happened. I had become more and more frustrated about how I was doing all of the work, I was doing all of the maintenance, and then I was also having to financially foot the bill to the project. As I said, it was burning me out pretty quickly, and I was thinking about leaving the group. Ozmedia suggested that he try to run the meeting and I not attend, and I agreed. But One Topic and Click were very insistent that I be there, even though I said I was not ready to talk and I needed more time. So when I entered the call, I tried to let everyone know that I was uncomfortable with having this conversation and I was not ready to have it. Again, I would like to point out that at this point in time, these were still my friends. These were people that I liked and cared about. Letting your friends know, hey, I'm not okay right now, I'm really stressed and hurt, while you all get to stream, I still have to pick up the pieces to keep this channel going, is a really difficult conversation to have. Before the meeting started, I was told that if I didn't show up, that they would not have the conversation with me and everything would just stagnate. So I tried to put the channel and my friends' needs above my own. Reluctantly, I joined the conversation, and as I was speaking, one topic talked over me, and out of frustration of this happening yet again, I raised my voice and said, "Can you shut up and let me talk for once?" And he left the call, and that's the last time I ever spoke with him. Looking back at it now, I should not have spoken to my friend like that. I felt that I wasn't given time to process and think things through, and in process of, emotion vomit came out. One topic, I would like to apologize for that, this time publicly. Clearly, this was a situation that affected all of us very deeply and personally, and this was an exciting idea, but one that never really took off the way I think we thought it could. To all of the members of Sad Milk, I just want to say that I'm very sorry that I caused you stress throughout this project.
Now, at least she apologized, but why did she need to provide the context for why she screamed at him? It makes it seem like she is trying to make herself look less bad. She admitted that there is no excuse for what she did, but yet she tried to excuse her actions with the context. What? What the fuck? Because of that, I personally don't believe she is sorry for what she said and how she yelled at him. In my opinion, if she were sorry, she wouldn't have gone on talking about the context and just said, "Yeah, that happened, I snapped, and there's no excuse for what I did, I'm sorry." However, in the end of the day, it's up to One Topic to determine if this is an acceptable apology, not me. Also, she is confirming a lot of One Topic's story, and knowing her tendency to lie, it makes me believe One Topic's story even more.
I want to take a couple minutes to bring up the Click and the many claims that he made on Twitter recently. The Click brings up how, as he puts it, a very convenient series of videos resurfaced with him saying some not so savory things after he left Sad Milk. His old videos, as he puts it, aged like milk. They did. I'm not going to dive into it further. The information's out there if you so choose to look. And as Click stated, those videos are 11 to 14 years old. And to be perfectly clear here, those videos are not any of the reasons as to why we split ways in Sad Milk, as Click tries to insinuate. Even back in 2020, I had stated that those videos had nothing to do with the ending of Sad Milk. I was actually unaware of those videos at the time of our friendship, but had I been aware of them, that friendship would have likely ended sooner.
To my knowledge, these videos were just videos with edgy jokes in them. I think it's ridiculous to bring up jokes told in the past by someone and criticize them for it. They are jokes and not meant to be taken seriously.
Unfortunately, when those videos surfaced, it wasn't really all that shocking to me, as Oz Media and I had actually talked about how Click had been using the R slur while we played games together. I thought, or I wanted to assume, that I had misheard, but Oz said that he was uncomfortable with it and said something, but the language continued.
Oh my god, who the hell cares?
Now let me just say that I don't have a problem with the word retarded unless you use it in a way to insult someone with a disability. Considering the fact that multiple creators I know who have disabilities don't care about the word retarded unless it is being used in a way to insult someone with a disability, to me, it's not a problem. I love how she's acting like the word retarded is so bad even though she herself has said it in the past. I bet the only reason she's calling out the Click for this is because she just wanted to call him out for something and couldn't think of anything. Blair, you have no right to call out the Click for using the word retarded, considering you have used it in the past.
Click, you are right. Those videos in question are old, and at this point, they're kind of irrelevant. People can learn and people can change.
What did you say, Nick?
No. Well, then why the fuck did you mention it? There's no point in mentioning that. To me, it just seems like you wanted to make him look bad by including this, since there was no reason to include this. Not only do you not have the right to call him out for saying the word retarded, considering you said it in the past, you had no reason to bring that up in the first place. To me, you bringing this up for no reason is retarded.
That being said, at the time in 2020, Click was still using horrifying language and slurs that have long been deemed unacceptable.
Oh, shut up, bitch!
Again, Blair, you used to say it.
I'd now like to address the Click's claims that I had any involvement in trying to gain control of his Discord server by, as he says, tossing around accusations at staff. Because unfortunately, there were some truly sinister things occurring in the Click's Discord that were brought to my attention. For this next section, I would like to provide a trigger warning. There will be mentions of explicit sexual language, mentions of pedophilia, graphic imagery, and inappropriate behavior around minors. Before I go any further into this, I want to mention that there's going to be resources in my description box regarding what I'm about to discuss now. I do think it's relevant to bring up that in 2019, the Click's channel was terminated by YouTube for sexual content. At the time, a few YouTubers, including myself and Oz Media, band together to help reinstate Click's channel. Oz spoke to his MCN representative, and I spoke with YouTube directly. This is something that I now look back on with so much regret. Had I known at the time what was going on behind the scenes, I never would have participated in helping Click with his channel.
Why? You literally just said his channel was wrongfully taken down. Why wouldn't you want to help him get it back up now? It has nothing to do with anything that happened behind the scenes, so why not help him? This logic just seems retarded to me.
Allow me to explain the situation a little bit. The Click and I had shared Discord moderators around the time of Sad Milk being created. Due to the Click's inaction, our shared moderators had brought a situation in his server to my attention, a situation involving pedophilia. In Click's Discord, there was a 19-year-old bragging about a 12-year-old that he was claiming to be involved with. A moderator reached out to get more information on this situation. This 19-year-old then reiterates, and I am directly quoting this here, "I talked with my therapist about it, even too, and he told me as long as I don't touch her, it's okay." Click and his team did not pursue any immediate action to ban, restrict, or report this individual. So those shared mods came to me, and they told me that they were uncomfortable. So we used this individual's ID number, and we banned them from the Sad Milk server and from my server, and we reported them to Discord's Trust and Safety team, who we hope did pursue this further.
Okay, so we ended up learning that his team actually pursued action against that person, but the Click didn't know about it until the morning because when the mod team found out and took care of this situation, he was asleep because it was nighttime where he lived. In fact, he addressed it the moment he was made aware of it. So here we have an instance of Blair lying. In fact, she literally lied in the DM she showed in her video.
Then I went to contact Click to see what was going on, and it was mainly because I didn't want to believe that he would blow off someone clearly discussing such an inappropriate relationship.
He didn't turn a blind eye to all this. Also, if this whole thing were true, then why didn't Blair do anything about it until now? She basically admitted to knowing about a Discord server that protects pedophiles for 3 years and not doing anything about it until now. This just makes you look really bad, Blair. Why would you think this is a good thing to make up? This lie really bit her in the ass. Maybe she should learn how to tell the truth instead.
In fact, this was right off the heels of one of his admins sharing pornographic content to people that they knew were minors. One thing that I would like to point out here is how these users were pushing pornographic materials to a minor who explicitly states that their parent is in the room with them, so they were hiding their phone. I would like to point out that a common tactic for abusers who are attempting to groom children is that they expose them to pornography and other sexual content in an attempt to desensitize the child. I'll provide Rain's page on grooming for further information. And if you're a child currently in a similar situation, I urge you to speak to a trusted adult or authorities. And again, resources will be provided below. Having to relook at these messages again still makes my stomach turn, even 3 years later. When Click didn't initially take action, I switched tactics with him and I called One Topic, who was and still is, to my understanding, one of the Click's closest friends.
She literally lied in the DM she showed in her video. And let's just say that this actually happened. If this happened, then how did Blair know that it happened? She isn't providing that information in this video, which that even indicates that she is lying even more considering there is no proof of the Click knowing.
Click's closest friends on social media. I got into a call with both of them and I shared these files with them, and One Topic opened the files, he was horrified, and he said, and I quote, "I've read one and I don't want access to those screenshots." It was after this conversation that Click took action and reported and removed that individual from his server. I really wouldn't.
So let's get this straight. She expects us to believe that he didn't do anything when someone did something inappropriate in his Discord server, but he once personally removed someone before this? That doesn't make any sense. Again, how did she think she could get away with lying like this?
Lightly make accusations like this unless I had seen them for myself. And let me be abundantly clear here. I am not trying to accuse the Click of pedophilia, nor do I have any reason to believe that he could be a pedophile.
While you aren't accusing him of being a pedophile, you're accusing him of protecting one. That is still bad, Blair. Also, wasn't this supposed to be an apology video? Again, this video is more Blair just throwing people under the bus than actually apologizing.
However, he cultivated an environment that was a breeding ground for inappropriate behavior with minors to occur, and that's exactly what happened. Having our shared moderators approach me in my server about this very serious situation in his server was extremely uncomfortable, but something the moderation team felt needed action that was not being taken. Furthermore, referring to these shared moderators that we had as spies, as he said on Twitter, it only dismisses the fact that he allowed this sexually explicit language to occur around minors. He referred to them as spies, which only shows that he didn't really see any issue with the state of his server. Mark, I'm going to address you directly here. On your Discord server that had, and likely still has, minors present, you as an adult need to do the right thing and actually pay attention to what goes down in your server or ensure a team will take action against inappropriate behavior.
Bruh, he can't address everything that happened in his Discord server. You just can't. Hell, that is why people have mods. The Clique has a ton of other things to do. He can't monitor everything in his Discord server 24/7. Hell, even if you have a good team in your Discord server, something can slip through the cracks. Also, he does take action when he is aware of something bad happening in his Discord server, so the Clique didn't do anything wrong. This is like how some journalists got on WowMau's ass for not knowing about the top secret files that were leaked in his Discord server. To assume that the Clique can keep track of everything in his Discord server and to think that everyone can is retarded.
I am sorry to those minors who were spoken to in such an inappropriate way. You were, and some of you likely are, still children. Adults should not be having sexually charged conversations with you or sharing sexually explicit photos with you. This is and always has been unacceptable. I will be providing links in the description box for a few resources for anyone who has been negatively impacted by these events. I did what I could, but I wish I could have done more. And I wish that the Clique had more accountability of his own server. I also hope that since my falling out with Clique, that he has learned from his past errors and worked to better himself. I hope that he and his current moderation team are holding themselves to a higher standard. The past 3 years have been challenging to all of us, and I think it's safe to say that living through a global pandemic has changed us in one way or another. Clique, I hope you have learned to not tolerate such behavior in your server. I hope that you have learned from this and that you'll continue to strive to do better. I truly regret ever being friends with you. And I hope that I can finally close the door on that chapter in my life. I want nothing to do with you, and I can only hope that I will no longer be associated with you after all of this.
Shut up, bitch!
He did nothing wrong, quit lying.
When it comes to discussing Wonderstruck, his actions are some of the most confusing I've had to deal with. I'm going to address his concerns, though a lot of it is fairly tricky since he hinges his accusations on anecdotal commentary. In responding to his baseless claims, I will provide evidence as necessary, as well as point out when things I mention are anecdotal, so I completely understand if you choose to dismiss my anecdotal commentary as it arises. His thread on Twitter makes many claims about who I am as a person and how I've treated him. I hope to come at this with a level head and a very thorough explanation of events. With that being said, let's start with Wonder's accusation of wage theft. That's a big one, and it's important. I talk often about how paying your people is important, so I know how ironic it must look to have that accusation thrown back at me. To begin, let me explain Wonder's employment history with me. During Sad Milk, all of us were contractors to that channel. We were paid as contractors so we could handle taxes in our respective countries on our own, as not all members were American citizens. As many of you are aware, video editing is largely considered gig work, and in the industry, most folks are contractors and work on a variety of projects for different clients at the same time. During December 2020, like all of the members of Sad Milk, Wonder was considered a contractor. On December 24th, 2020 at 5:39 a.m., I received a message from Wonder letting me know that he took a shot at reworking a video that had already been edited by a different contractor. I want to clarify, I did not ask him to do this. This was something he did of his own accord. I responded to him letting him know that his edits would go live at 1 p.m. on December 24th, 2020. I don't want to claim to know what goes on in Wonder's personal life, but claiming that he missed Christmas with his brother and father, I just don't know how that's possible when the video was finalized early morning on Christmas Eve. And Wonder, I do want to thank you again, as I previously had verbally done so, for editing that video. It was great to have a video go live the day before Christmas. As for his claim that he didn't get paid for his work for more than half a month, I would like to let everyone know that Sad Milk's payroll was on a bi-weekly schedule. That simply means that there is a payment every 2 weeks, which is essentially half of a month. This is something that I have continued within my own channel to this day.
Okay, then why don't you just show pay statements for paying Wonder, with private details censored, of course. So if you guys don't know, for my office job, and many other jobs as a matter of fact, they have something called pay statements, which is when you can check how much you get paid on payday. I know it's possible that she does not have pay statements, but considering she is able to get her workers' health insurance, I'm inclined to believe that she can afford to give them pay statements. You can easily prove that you pay him on time with pay statements.
Both salaried and contracted employees are paid every 2 weeks, and to further add to that, most companies, at least in the US, pay on a bi-weekly schedule, so this is not anything unusual or uncommon. To continue the discussion of his employment with me, I will have to give some much-needed context. For this section, I will be providing screenshots where applicable, but some of this is anecdotal, as much of our conversations were either over voice calls or in person. Further corroboration of the anecdotal evidence will be provided in the Google Drive. Wonder and I were still friends throughout the end of Sad Milk in 2020 as well as into 2021. During this time, he would often tell both Oz Media and myself how living in Austin, Texas was a nightmare for him. He would often complain about his roommates being terrible people, his friends being mostly terrible people and unmotivated to do well in life, and how his car was always breaking down and how his channel was not going in the direction he wanted. And then he talked about that last bit of family that he had moving away and he was essentially alone. I won't speak on behalf of Oz, but I know I was moved by Wonder's stories. Without going into personal details, I was pretty horrified by what he had explained happened in his past. I was saddened by how he constantly talked about how bad his life was and how he felt like a failure. He said he felt alone, depressed, and uncertain of the future. And at that point, I knew I wanted to help him in whatever way I could. At the end of 2020, I paid for his tickets to visit Oz and me in Colorado. During this trip, we discussed the possibility of Wonder moving out to Colorado due to his discontent with his life in Texas. Oz Media and I had just moved into his newly purchased home in April 2021, and he decided to welcome Wonder into his house. Unless Oz Media was doing so without my understanding, Wonder was not charged any rent, utilities, or internet for sharing our living space. Later in May 2021, we welcomed Wonder into the house. Oz even personally drove down to Texas to get Wonder and his dog, James. I want to explain my perspective a little bit here. At this point, I was finally starting to feel comfortable with my channel, and I felt that I was in a good position to be able to help somebody out and truly change the lives of one of my close friends. I was in what I felt was a privileged position, and I wanted to share that with someone I cared about and wanted to see succeed. With that in mind, I decided to hire Wonder to do some editing work for my channel. And now we can get back to the continuation of discussing Wonder's employment. Wonder was hired on June 7th, 2021 and was salaried at $50,000 a year. To be frank, I just really wanted him to have an easier job so that he could focus on his personal channel, as he had told me numerous times that was his ultimate goal. His only task was to edit short clips from any live streams that I did, so that I could post them onto my secondary channel, iilluminaughtii. In addition to his salary, he received all benefits that I have for all of my salaried employees, which include a 401k, full health insurance, and an internal benefit I created for my team called an LSA.
Yeah, if she didn't provide her employees with pay statements, but she provided all that, I would be shocked.
The LSA stands for a lifestyle spending account, and it's essentially more money to put on the table if you as an employee want it. It allows you to submit receipts for things that you've purchased, and I've seen things like groceries, pet supplies, books, new tires for cars, massages, mortgage payments, and so much more. And essentially, I'll reimburse those into more income. During his employment, he never took advantage of any of the benefits that were made available to him. The content for Wonder to edit was dependent on me being able to live stream. During this time, I unfortunately only had 2 streams for him to work on, which Wonder would have been able to produce about 4 videos from. Wonder did not meet the deadlines for either stream. Despite this, I kept him on payroll, I continued his pay, even though no work had ever been completed.
Didn't you just thank him for his hard work?
And Wonder, I do want to thank you again, as I previously had verbally done so, for editing that video. It was great to have a video go live the day before Christmas.
You literally just thanked him for his work on the video that went live on Christmas, and now you're saying he didn't do any work at all? That doesn't make any sense. I'm pretty sure Wonder working his butt off enough to get a video out on Christmas Eve for you just shows how hard of a worker he is and how hard he works in general. Also, if he weren't working, then why did you keep him employed and keep paying him? Most companies don't keep paying you if you aren't working. They will fire you for not working.
School amount of work for Wonder to do, he still managed to act up within company spaces. He made inappropriate comments on forms that were visible to other employees, he didn't complete tasks that were assigned to him, and he failed to follow company protocol. I have a strict policy regarding formal disciplines, and within his short time of working with me, he had already met the criteria for termination. Now, let's move on to the legalities that Wonder brought up in regards to how he claims that he ended up with no car, barely any clothing, no money, and no home. Which leads me to one of the stupidest mistakes of my life. After repeatedly hearing Wonder say how desperately he needed a car, and after believing what he said about how miserable he was, I decided to try and help my friend in a way that I now realize was pretty idiotic. I look back at this decision with regret and embarrassment. This part will get a little nitty-gritty with the details, but I believe I need to fully flesh out all of the information to give you the full picture. After many in-depth discussions with Wonder, I made the decision to purchase a vehicle that he had already agreed to enter into a rent-to-own contract with said vehicle. On June 12, 2021, Oz Media and I collectively decided to take out a loan together in the amount of $42,359.69. Additionally, I brought $28,346.79 in cash as a deposit. Wonder did not contribute to the deposit on the car. With this rent-to-own contract, I agreed to only charge Wonder the cost of the loan and not the full value of the car itself, meaning within a 24-month period, he would have only paid $14,120.12 for a car that, when purchased, went for a grand total of $61,386.23. And let me be clear here, aside from him accepting my job offer, this was the only legal documentation between the two of us. I will have all of the stipulations of our rent-to-own agreement on the screen now, but just know that the most important thing was that after 2 years of consecutive car payments and following all of the stipulations, the vehicle title would be transferred over to Wonder, with the amount that we put into the car as well as payments on the car that I continued to make monthly. He would own the car outright with no lingering auto debt after that 24-month period. In a DM with me, Wonder later told me that if he hadn't accepted my job offer and my rent-to-own agreement, that he would still have an apartment, a car, and close to $10K in his bank account. I'd like to reiterate that unless Oz was charging rent without my knowledge, Wonder was living rent-free while earning $1,923.08 every other week, and would have to pay only $588.34 once a month. I don't claim to know the ins and outs of his finances whatsoever, and I very much was not involved with what he was doing with his bank accounts, but I fail to see how I could possibly cost him $10,000. In reality, the agreement I made with Wonder would have me lose $47,266.11. And again, looking back at this, I feel extremely foolish for ever even agreeing to such an arrangement. There were 2 outstanding instances.
Why the fuck does it sound like she's whispering? It sounds like she's whispering. She sounds like one of those kids who makes YouTube videos that whisper into the mics so they don't wake their parents up.
That voided our agreement and constituted the repossession of my vehicle. The first was the proof of insurance that Wonder never provided. Insurance that is something federally required of any vehicle on the road in the United States.
Okay, then why didn't you check with him to see if he had auto insurance in the first place? Also, you said that he had a car before this that kept breaking down, which means that he would have had auto insurance, and now you're claiming he didn't have any? I'm just gonna say this right now, we did end up learning that her claim that Wonder didn't have any auto insurance was a total lie.
There's a big surprise!
The second infraction on our agreement occurred when Wonderstruck left the state of Colorado to go back to Austin, Texas. You can clearly see these stipulations in the document on the screen right now. Due to multiple defaults by Wonder in our contract, I felt that I had no choice but to repossess the vehicle, which was my property because I am the one who owned it. When I landed in Austin, Texas, I called the non-emergency Austin PD 311 number to explain the situation to them. I told them that I had all of my title documents on me, I had the extra key, I had my insurance cards for the vehicle, and I asked them how I should proceed. They told me they were unconcerned as I was well within my legal right to collect my own property. They furthermore offered me a police escort for the repossession if I wasn't able to collect the car on my own. So on July 29th, 2021, I was able to get a hold of my vehicle and I took back my property. I would like to take a moment to bring up the condition of the vehicle upon its repossession. Within 1 month of using the vehicle, the car was visibly soiled, trash was littered in the car, it contained dirty clothing which consisted of I think 2 pairs.
Bruh, this car ain't even that dirty. I've been in cars with way more trash in them. I mean, heck, it's certainly cleaner than Blair's room.
Of dirty boxers and maybe 3 mismatched socks. There was also a huge crack that went across most of the windshield.
The crack isn't even that bad. Now, granted, you should get something like that fixed, yeah, but overall, it's pretty common to get a crack like that. It was probably a result from a pebble flying off a semi-truck and hitting the windshield.
And for some reason, the glove box compartment in the front passenger seat was somehow broken. The state of the vehicle was shocking, to be honest.
Why is it that she's making this seem more severe than it actually is? It's just a messed up latch. Yeah, it sucks, but it's not that bad.
But at this point, I was just happy to have my car back and know that it couldn't be damaged any further.
I think her describing this car perfectly represents how Blair twists the truth. Just like the car, she makes minor things look more messed up than they actually are.
And Oz, I want to thank you again for helping me throughout this entire situation. You knew better than anyone how much this situation affected the both of us, and I can't express how much your support meant and continues to mean to me. I know he yelled and screamed extensively at both of us. You didn't deserve that, and I didn't either, but I'm still sorry that this hurt you too. I just want to give a quick trigger warning here for the mention of suicide and suicidal intention. After the car was back in my possession on the 29th of July, Oz and I received numerous messages from Wonder, which will be available in the Google Drive. What I specifically would like to highlight is that he insinuates that he had intention to and was taking action to arm himself to end his life. In a message directly with me,
That was really bad.
This is incredibly shitty to share. You are putting someone's mental health out there. You have no right to do this, Blair, and no excuse to share this. The fact that you think this is okay to put this out there just shows how messed up you are. Boy, if YouTube didn't restrict what I could say, I would call her a certain word that starts with the letter C. And if you know what I'm talking about, she is one with a capital C. Also, you said earlier in the video that Wonder didn't work and didn't reach deadlines, and now you're showing a DM that shows he actually did work and didn't want to miss deadlines. You are literally contradicting your previous claim by showing this.
Message directly with me. He explicitly told me that, quote, I was legit trying to get into my dad's gun cabinet to fucking kill myself. Either way, out of concern, I called the Austin Police Department non-emergency line to ask for a wellness check. And when I explained to the operator what was the situation at hand, they immediately transferred me to the 911 dispatcher. I then read the messages to them, and I gave the 911 operator the last known place of his residence in Texas, which was his dad's house, to perform a wellness check. The operator then told me not to arrange anything unless the police force is present. In his messages, Wonder states that he received a call from his therapist, which ultimately pulled him out of his intended plan. And let's take a moment to discuss the therapist. During his time in Colorado, he expressed that he wanted to seek therapy, and I think that's a fantastic decision. To help him with his process, I messaged my old therapist, who I did a lot of EMDR therapy with and helped me immensely. On screen is me reaching out to her to see if she was accepting any new clients. Confidential details are going to be censored in order to keep Wonder's privacy and integrity.
Okay, fine, I'm cool, I'm fine.
What bullshit. You literally put his mental health out there. You put something that was private out on the internet. To say that you care about Wonder's privacy after doing that is like saying Mini-Lad doesn't like mini-lads. It's just not true.
Looking back, I probably shouldn't have recommended a therapist who was so life-changing for me to somebody else. Therapy is a continual journey. You can come in and out as needed. And unfortunately, after I recommended Wonder to this therapist, there began a conflict of interest and I could no longer in good conscience see her for her services. Wonder, I am so incredibly sorry that I unintentionally created a conflict of interest between the two of us in regards to this therapist. I did not mean to make that an issue between us at all. When Wonder arrived in Colorado, to say he packed lightly would be a bit of an understatement. He arrived with barely any clothing, no food for his dog, not even a collar for his dog, just a bandana. As Wonder mentions on Twitter, that short amount of time we lived together was absolutely a nightmare. The tension began with our dogs and his unwillingness to help ease the situation between our pets. I did everything I thought of at the time to introduce James and Casper in a way that facilitated a good relationship between the dogs. They met on neutral ground at a dog park and only had supervised play at the house. Wonder did not want to facilitate the dog play, so this really only happened under mine and Oz's supervision. And when both myself and Oz would leave the house and Wonder would stay home, he has multiple times locked Casper away in an empty room while James got free roam over the entire house. I don't want to claim that I'm any sort of dog specialist, but I do know that James was the new dog in this house that Casper had already been living in. And dogs are territorial by nature, that this was Casper's house and now suddenly he was being locked away. Additionally, James had multiple accidents in the home and Wonder would not clean them. It was Oz who ended up taking on that responsibility. During Wonder's stay in Colorado, his actions and inactions regarding the care of his dog James were a main cause of tension in the house. Not only did it seem like James was receiving inadequate care due to the lack of identification with a collar, lack of food, lack of toys, and more, but Wonder was unwilling to do his part as a pet owner, to keep the peace between the dogs too. Wonder's lack of responsibility led to multiple incidents in addition to what I've previously mentioned. Firstly, James bit Casper, and bit his ear so hard that Casper bled. At this point, I took Casper to live with my sister as I no longer felt comfortable having Casper alone in the house with Wonder and James. I reached out to my good friend who's also a dog trainer to see if he could help me with the situation. The second incident occurred on June 24th, 2021. On the night of the 23rd, Oz and Wonder went out together. I was exhausted, and so before they both left, I let them know that I was going to bed, which is exactly what I did. I was woken up at 2:30 in the morning by Oz because Wonder was panicking because James was gone.
Kind of funny that she's saying she didn't do anything when something was going on because she was asleep, considering the fact the Click was asleep when the situation in his Discord server was going on.
Wonder admitted that he took James outside to go potty, then having forgotten he had done so, he left James outside while Wonder left the house with Oz. That means that he left his own dog outside unsupervised for hours on end in the middle of the night. If I was aware that James was outside unsupervised, I would have done everything to ensure his safety and brought him back inside. There was unfortunately nothing I could do as I was already downstairs in my room sleeping by the time this was all unfolding. When I was woken up by Oz, I got on the Nextdoor app and I immediately made a post to try and locate James. Got a response around 10 a.m. the next day with a call from someone who had thankfully located James. The only evidence I have of this series of events is photos of James that Wonder sent to me at 3:05 in the morning on June 24th, because I needed some photos to post on Nextdoor. As for the photo that Wonder posted claiming that I live in a hoarder home, I want to clarify that, as previously stated, Oz and I had only started moving into the home around mid-April 2021. I still had my room from a shared lease with multiple roommates until June 1st. During Wonder's stay, I was still in the process of moving in and unpacking. Furthermore, the photo he shows is a photo of a room that wasn't lived in by anyone in the house, and it was being used as a temporary storage and unpacking site while everyone was moving in.
You know, if she wanted to debunk this, she could have just shown us a picture of her room to see if it's actually that messy. Also, why would you have a trash room where you keep your mess? That's just weird and disgusting to have in your home. That's literally why trash cans and recycling bins exist.
To further exemplify this, I would like to show you some photos I have of Casper in my room from that same time. And I would like to highlight a couple things, which I feel this is very nitpicky, but because this was brought up in such a manner, I feel that this is kind of the way to dispel this. And again, normally I wouldn't point out small things like this, but I really feel as I need to. If you go ahead and look at the sheets on the bed, it's not the same ones as the one.
Now, I know some Illuminati fan is soy-facing right now, saying, "Oh look, it's a picture of her room that is clean. There's your proof that she doesn't live like a fucking slob."
Man, shut your bitch ass.
But yeah, it's a picture of her bed with her dog on it, not the room in its entirety. For all we know, there could be a bunch of trash around the area that we aren't seeing. I mean, hell, we can't even see the floor in this picture. This picture doesn't prove anything.
That are on the floor in the photo he took. At the time, Colorado is still very cold in April, and I had a full goose down comforter on the bed. And as you can see with photos of literally Casper's Instagram with the tagged dates on it below as well, you can see that my bed also, albeit a bit gaudy, has a silver headboard with little little crystals and mirrors and silver tuffeting. I feel the need to point out these minor details since the out of context photos of the house being moved into are being used as a way to show that I'm a supposed monster and that, quote, my home is a mess, like hoarders bad. And just, what was the point of this wonder? Why would you even bother posting something like this except to humiliate me? This was a room that we told you we were using to move, and we let you know it was off limits to you. That photo alone shows your consistent lack of respect for Oz's and my boundaries.
I'd say it's shittier to post private information about someone's mental health.
And Wonder, I am sorry that I was ever friends with you.
Shut up, bitch.
My short involvement in your life clearly caused you so much harm and emotional distress, and I never want that for any of my friends, past or present. And for that, I again want to apologize. I hope you find peace. This final section and this final person will be the hardest for me to address, so I plan on keeping this brief. Oz, you were right. I am afraid of looking stupid and weak online, and yet I am those things right now.
There's a big surprise.
You've been with me through a lot of really intense and personal situations in my life. You were there throughout the entire process of my mom's cancer diagnosis, her various treatments, and hospitalizations. And I know there were many times when I had to run out the door suddenly because there was a crash cart in her room and they didn't know if she was going to make it. And you said you'd stay at the house and watch Casper so I could go to my mom. You were there for Casper's various hospitalizations when he would get sick throughout the years, and you helped me through a very difficult surgery recovery. I just want to say thank you for always being my support through all of my ups and downs. I know that a lot of these personal situations in my life left me very thin and sometimes irritable.
Honestly, it's more telling that he spoke out against you knowing this information, because if someone that cared about you this much is willing to come out against you, it just shows you aren't exactly the best person.
And I want to say thank you for supporting me through it and talking me through some really hard times. Your support and your friendship meant more to me than I think you'll probably ever know. I'm gonna miss all the fun things we used to do, eating way too much cheese at the melting pot. I'll miss you teaching me how to play Command and Conquer and playing it, and how you've always obviously been Casper's BFF, and you know how Casper is not afraid of Oswaldo. We're both gonna miss you a lot. The truth is, like we've privately discussed before, I always hoped that we'd be able to reconnect again in the future and mend our friendship. I meant that when I said it to you, and I believed you when you said it back.
I honestly want to say that this sounds like fake crying, but because we can't know for sure, I'm not gonna say that it is. But knowing her tendency to lie, I can say that it's a possibility, and very likely.
Even after everything that's happened, you were the one person that I always thought we could just get it and pick back up where we left. And unfortunately, I think that ship has sailed.
Bye, bitch!
Oz, I miss the friend you were to me, but I think this makes it clear that we finally need to cut all ties. So, to finish out this very difficult video for me, I want to once again just say I take accountability for my actions. There are absolutely some stupid and dumb things that I did, and sometimes I do react a bit impulsively, and that does tend to backfire on me. I am disappointed in my behavior, and I hope that I can learn from all of this. I want to own up to my faults and take responsibility for my actions.
Serious?
Where was this urge to take responsibility for your actions when you deleted videos off of Tommy C's channel, when you were mean to that fan, or in the many other cases you didn't take responsibility? Or did you just magically develop this urge when you started losing subscribers?
Furthermore, I want to take responsibility for my own involvement with a crowd I am happy to no longer associate with. I did make bad decisions, I've made bad friends, and there will forever be a bad taste in my mouth regarding some of the individuals I've spoken about today. But finally, I want to apologize to my audience. I owe you better than this, and you deserve more from me. I let you down, and I am sorry. I hope that in time you can see that I mean everything that I've said here today, and I am so excited to be able to prove you right.
Shut up, bitch!
Wow, that video was terrible. Thank God a majority of people are not buying this crap from Blair. This video is just her more throwing people under the bus than actually apologizing. She also does not bring up a lot of things, such as her being accused of throwing away Wonder's play button. The evidence she has in this video has a lot of holes in it. She also doesn't provide evidence for some of the serious claims. She also contradicts herself a lot, over-exaggerates, puts someone else's mental health out there, outright lied a couple of times, and, in my opinion, gave an apology to one topic that was not genuine. All in all, this video is more garbage than the trash in Blair's room.